coming. This is our 8th Advanced Research Seminar in this academic year. And I'm very happy to present our special guest who came from Mexico. Our dean is more familiar with his visit here because we already spoke with our dear guest last week. And except from doing a research here, he's also traveling around our beautiful country. So I think he will be thrilled when he goes back home with some impressions of Croatia. We have a very, very interesting topic today, Mexico and the United States, ups and downs of a complicated border. We agreed that the best framework is for Alfonso to speak for 30 minutes, and after that you can ask whatever question you have or comment. So I think we will have a very interesting presentation. So welcome to our faculty and welcome to Advanced Research Center.
Thanks so much, and good morning to everyone. I hope you find this topic interesting, and I will try to go very fast. I think it's very difficult to just take a lot of years and a lot of things in just 25 minutes. And all the presentations, in fact, are just pictures. So I'll try to explain everything just through the pictures. So the thing is that if we are going to talk about Mexico and the United States, we have to take into account how do we form our foreign policy in the first time. So we have a long history, almost 200 years of existence. But in those 200 years, we didn't have a foreign policy as a fact. In fact, we have a foreign policy until maybe 1910. And we are going to discuss why. And I really want to go very fast, so you can just ask me whatever you want. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that we are going to discuss three things. First one, an historical approach to our foreign policy. Second one, the fundamental principles that are in our constitutions. And the last one are just some current things that are happening right now in our border between the United States and Mexico. So the first thing that we are going to discuss is what do we understand in Mexico, maybe in an academic way, of a foreign policy. So we understand that a foreign policy can't be if you don't have three things: a national identity, a formal state reality, and also a legal framework. So we didn't have this until 1910. We lost almost 100 years fighting with ourselves, fighting with other countries, trying to defend our borders, and then almost at the beginning of the 20th century, we get a state. So that was a very long way. So just very quickly, after we get independence in 1810, we have almost 30 years fighting ourselves. So what are we going to do? We are going to go back to another European country, or we are going to be independent. So with that happening right now in the center of the country, that was a very big territory, we didn't have enough military to just go to the borders and defend ourselves. So that was the first reason that the United States just taking account to invade Mexico in 1845. So as they get near to the borders, they really don't find any military from Mexico. So the borders really fall very quickly. And after 2 years of war, we just signed a treaty in 1848 to define our country, our borders. But that is a very complicated issue because we lost half of our territory, and this is the first time that the Mexican people from that time really realized what a Mexican has to be. So we are a nation at danger. We are always have to protect our borders. That will be the main reason of our existence, because for the last 30 years we have no other enemies, and for the first time we have enemies near to us. So that will be the rise of our identity, our national identity. I'll try to explain later if you want something more about our identity. I know that maybe you may say, okay, there's no ethnical groups inside of the country. Yes, there are, and there are a lot. But the thing is that they don't believe that they are inside of a national identity of a Mexican. They believe, okay, I am Zapoteco, I am from another identity, ethnical identity. But the thing is that it's a very it has a lot of accidents, geographical accidents, all our territory. So it's very difficult that the people just really realize what is happening in the center. Now think about this in the 19th century. So this was the map of Mexico before we lost half of our territory. I know this is for a promotional, but I just take it because it's very illustrative. So, but it lacks one part that is all of this. We almost have all the part of Central America, so it was a very big territory. We also lost these parts, but it was from a secessional issue, very different, the most political and diplomatic way than the northern part. So those wars, the first conflicts between United States and Mexico. In this part, United States had already founded their expansionism idea that America has to be for the American people. Okay, after 1848, we have some issues. Okay, now we are Mexicans. Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to be a federation or an imperial system? So we try an imperial system, in fact. We called Maximilian of Habsburg, and we have a small empire for almost 3 years. So there was a lot of chaos until it came this man, that is General Porfirio Diaz. And this is the first part that we are going to say that it's the beginning of the construction of the idea of a state. Because General Diaz put order through two main ideas. There has to be order and progress. That was the motto for all his administration that lasts almost 7 years. And for those 30 years, we began to have a former national military. We began to protect our borders. And we have a very small agreement with the United States. For the first time, we have like a way to understand us in not only trade, but also migration, that it wasn't that big until the 20th century. But it came a special delicate moment in our history, that is the Mexican Revolution. And the Mexican Revolution can't be or can't happen without the help in fact, it was a civil war, more like a revolutionary movement. It was a civil war because at the beginning, the people that want to change the political regime of Diaz only wants to just get out with him and just go on. But the fact is that the factions that were fighting, they didn't believe that their proposals were inside of the Constitution of 1970, and the United States didn't believe the same. So they tried to just sabotage all the efforts, and they sent this guy that is the ambassador, Henry Lane Wilson. In fact, he just sabotaged the government of President Madero. So the thing is that, okay, we have a state, we have a national identity, but now we have a lot of disorder between us. In the end of this collide of classes, we have the political constitution of 1917. That is, it's almost, in our days, it's still the same constitution with a lot of modifications, in fact. But the thing is that this is the beginning of a very different relation between the United States and Mexico. For the first time now, we have a political issue with, well, not a political issue, in fact, it's a geographical dispute for the natural resources. And this is going to be the main idea between Mexico and the United States for the next almost 30 years, from 1910, 1938 almost. When when former President Lázaro Cárdenas just nationalized all the energetic resources, that it's oil, gas, and this could be, in fact, there was a lot of pressure from the United States through Mexico, so you have to give us your natural resources, you can't just stay there, you have to give us. But there was a very important thing at 1938, the beginning of the Second World War, maybe not that year, the next one. So that was the thing that really, the success of this political, just to nationalize. If the Second World War didn't start in that year, maybe we couldn't just do that, the nationalism. But after that, the Second World War is the first time in our history that now we really have a lot of agreements between Mexico and United States. So here you have one of the most emblematic pictures from that time, that is Harry Truman, former president of the United States, and Miguel Alemán, former president of Mexico. It's the first time that there was a visit of a state between the two countries. The other ones were just like exchanges of ambassadors and just diplomatic, not a really relation between states. And I want to skip almost 50 years because I think it's not that there's nothing happens there. It's just a lot of political and economical crisis inside of Mexico. that just move on all the governments to think, okay, so now that we have an agreement between the United States and Mexico, maybe we can go forward and maybe we can make an agreement of trade, migration, and other issues that are like very sensible for all the public. So we're going to sign the NAFTA. And in 1994, it begins the most close relation between United States and Mexico. But as you can see, almost all the time we have been, we have been in danger from the United States because we already have a lot of experience in these kind of issues that we have to protect ourselves for the Americans, in fact. So, in this period, we have learned a lot of things, but the most important ones were put in the Constitution from 1990, and in the Article 89, the fraction 10, we put our fundamental principles. And I want to say that our fundamental principles, since they're not like mandatory. Many people believe that yes, we have to just do it, these are mandatory, we can just escape from these ideas. But in fact, Mexico has played with all these ideas from almost 100 years for the beneficial, for the national interest, and I will explain 2 examples. The first one is Contadora Group. In the beginning of the 80s, we have a lot of problems with Central America. Mexico believed that there was a humanitarian problem, and the United States believed that there was a security problem. So we have a lot of problems with the United States, and we believe that there must be another way to just solve this controversial. So we move on, and we ask the other 3 countries, Colombia, Panama, and Venezuela, to get a group specifically to solve the problem in Central America. It didn't success in the end, but at least it was one of the most important efforts of all our diplomacy in the last century. The second one is the Treaty of Tlatelolco. It was the first non-nuclear weapon-free zone. It was in 1968, and it was the beginning from other treaties like Rarotonga, Pailandaba, and other ones. But this is kind of interesting because, as you can see, this is 6 years later from the crisis of the missiles in Cuba. So we really felt that there was a big hazard near our geographical area. So we really need a treaty just to compel all the efforts from the Americans to get inside our region. There are other countries that, of course, do a lot of effort, just as said Argentina, but I think Mexico do all of the job with Colombia and also Venezuela, just before all the political crisis that we already have. Okay, so we have 2 examples of good manners, or let's say like 2 good ways to use our principles of foreign policy. But we have right now a very special issue that is the PKOs. So 3 years ago, in the presidential report of President Peña Nieto, he said like, okay, so now we are not a developing country, we have to move forward, we have to just attend our obligations in the UN, so we are going to send some of our militaries to the PKOs. So there was a very big issue in all the media because they said, okay, so we have this non-intervention principle, why are we going to send military? So if you want to ask me about this, I think it's controversial right now. In fact, there are a lot of dissents in Mexico right now. We have to do it because it's our duty. We don't have to do it because we don't have this kind of foreign policy. But I really think it's our obligation right now because we have been inside of the United Nations from the beginning and we didn't send any troops. Maybe some humanitarian help, yes, but not any troops right now. And just to get inside of all the things that is happening right now in the current situation between Mexico and the United States, I really want to just point some things. The first one is that all of our investment comes from the United States, almost 80%. Also, all of our trade goes to the United States. So it's not like we can just say, as many people just ask me, why don't you do something with Trump? Why don't you say just get out or just take a more energetic or another way just to solve the problems? It's because we are tied for our trade with the United States, so we can just do it we don't want just to stay here. So we have to stay there, but there has to be another way just to treat our neighbor. And in fact, there has to be another way that our neighbor treats us. So this is just to show you that the U.S. trade with Mexico has been rising since the signing of the treaty in 1994. There is just a small moment in 2008 where it goes down, but the most beneficial part of the treaty has been the United States. In fact, Mexico too, for sure. But the United States has not really lost anything in the sign of NAFTA. In fact, they have a lot of things that can be fixed, that's for sure, but there are a lot of things that work very well. For example, trade, the most important one, I think so. This is, for example, the foreign direct investment. As you can see, the small blue one is the investment that Mexicans do on the United States, but the United States do almost 4 times the same in our country. So, and it has increased with all the years. So, why do we have to re-sign the NAFTA? In fact, that's the main reason why right now our government has very awareness of this kind of situation. We were like partners right now. Why do we have to resign a treaty that was very good for us? So this is all the border. In fact, 1 million legal cross every day, and we don't have exact numbers of how many people just cross from one side to another, but in a legal way. Because we have a lot of, we have a river, for sure, we have a desert, so many people just cross from the river or goes through the desert, and it can be just like, yeah, there are like 1 million or 2 million people. There are a lot of people crossing every day from one side to another. Now, I want to talk about that the government right now has a very important mission to overcome the problem with Donald Trump. And there's a special reason for that. On June of the last year, as you can see, all these parties in red are for the Institutional Revolutionary Party. This party has been ruling Mexico for almost like 70 years. And in fact, they lose the elections in 2000, and they recover the power in the last elections. And they have a lot of ways to win the elections, sabotage and other things. But the most important thing is that after the last election, they lose a lot of power in all the country. So if they want some kind of thing through our foreign policy with Donald Trump, it will be very important just to keep all the power in that party. But also with this party, we have a lot of criminal issues from the beginning of the last period, that was in 2012. In fact, the peak was between 2006 and 2012, but there was another reason, because we just sent our army just to fight the criminal groups. Now they are doing the same things, but now we have a lot of help from the United States. But it's not enough, and we know that we don't have enough power just to compel all our criminal groups. And I want to talk about this because this has been the main objectives of our foreign policy in the late 20 days. As you may see, this is a tweet from Donald Trump just from late August. And after that, we begin with the hurricane season. So the first thing that the Mexican government do was, okay, so you have problems, you are my neighbor, we have to do good things for our neighbors, and we are going to help. And we didn't receive any response from the government of Donald Trump. In fact, it was just Abbott, the government of Texas, that says, okay, yes, we need the help. But that was until the last weekend when we have the earthquake in Mexico. So sometimes the reality just overcomes our plans. And right now we retire all our help from the United States. But there was a very important declaration for our foreign ministry that was, okay, we are sending help because we really need to show the people and all the world that we are good neighbors with everyone, so, and especially with the United States. I think it's not the way that I really would like to be, or that our foreign policy will be with the United States, but I think it's, right now we don't have enough power just to overcome the problems that we have. A second example, and this is also something that happened last Friday. This is the ambassador of North Korea in our country. And last Friday, we asked him just to leave our country. The Mexican government expelled ambassadors, and I think he already left the country. And maybe you could say, why are this important? Because for many years, we have very good relations with North Korea. So why do we have to just ask him just to go outside from our country? Because we really have a lot of pressure from the United States right now for all the problems that are between them and the North Korean regime. So the thing is that our foreign policy are also subordinate for the orders for the United States for almost the last 20-25 years. And the last example that I want to give is the ending of DACA, that it will take almost 6 months to the Congress to take a decision if they pass or not the DREAM Act. And here are some of the problems that will bring to the government of Mexico if the DREAM Act doesn't go on. I think the main one, maybe in a political way, is that there are a lot of people that are going to come very upset with the government, and that means a lot of people that are going to vote against the current government. So they have to improve our foreign policy actions just to see what can we do for these people. And I really believe that our government don't do this because it's humanitarian, it's because it's a political objective. So with this, I will just end. I don't know if I go very fast. I just want to point that maybe this is the most recent issue that we have to manage with the United States, specifically about migration. Maybe trade is that important for the government, but right now migration is the most important one because we don't have enough jobs for all the people that are going to come back from the country. And I'll leave it there, and I really want to hear maybe most for you, that maybe you have a lot of questions, and I will be pleased to answer it. So thank you so much for this small
Thank you very much. I think everyone is more than keen to ask something, so who will start first?
I know everything. I'm following Mexico, so questions are for you.
So do you think this border will be completed?
Like
the border that Trump is of?
like the
wall.
how about
The
the wall?
wall,
Yeah.
the wall, yeah.
I think it's impossible, almost because it has a lot of kilometers just between one border and another. It's one of the biggest border in the world. There's the main reason, I think. The second one is as a lot of geographical accidents, like the river and the desert. Second one, I think, is just a crazy idea. He has like 4 years, maybe 3 years, just to complete their task. Maybe another 4 years if somebody relaxes him, but I don't think it will be possible. Just for the physical ideas. There can be another ways to just block Mexico, just to ban him from, I don't know. But a wall, I think, is impossible. I mean, even I can say that our government says it's impossible, but they are trying not to think about it.
Yes, but even if they do build the wall, can the migration stop? Because it's the main problem.
Yeah, in fact, because we already have a lot of experience going under the ground and just to get inside of the country or inside of the United States. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago that they discovered a tunnel that goes from Mexico to the United States just to pass drugs. So if they pass drugs, why don't people? In fact, there's a big business there also.
And what about paying for the vote? Because during the campaign, Trump announced that your government will pay for it, and now it's obvious that Americans are paying for it, but that somehow you will reimburse their cost. Is it possible or?
It's possible. In fact, I think it was like 7 months ago that a Mexican company just said, okay, if somebody wants to build a wall, we want to. So it was like, thank you. So you're going to build a wall and you're going to they are going to pay you for that, okay? And if you feel good with that, it's okay. I think it's more like a moral decision, but there's no moral, I think, in investments. There's no profits. So I don't think many Mexican people will do it. Maybe this company will do. It was from Sonora, I think so. But I don't think many people will do it. And in fact, I can't believe that it's, or maybe I'm just trying to not believe that it's going to be possible. Maybe.
Well, I have one funny question and one serious one. The Mexicans have any dragons in case if the Americans build the wall, so you can
Any what?
like in Game of Thrones.
Any dragons?
Yeah,
We don't.
something like that.
We
So,
don't.
Now this, for the serious question. Are there any polls showing the opinions of the Mexican citizens toward the wall? So what do you think, what a common Mexican citizen thinks about the wall? Is it a funny idea? Or do you think the Americans are just crazy or something else?
I will answer your questions in taking into account the political divisions that right now is in our country. The first one is, and I don't want that it sounds like politically incorrect, but many people that really read about the wall and the possibility of that possibility says, okay, this is a crazy idea, we are not going to pay for that wall. But the left party, or maybe the left movement that right now is moving a lot of people for their votes for the next campaign in the next year, are trying to just move these people saying that, yes, they are going to build that wall, so we have to do something, and some people really believe that this is going to happen right now. Because they believe that our government, I also believe that my government are a very weak one right now. We already have bad governments, but not as weak as this one. So I think those peoples that are like with more of this idea that there's an enemy outside really believe that the wall is possible, and that this guy that is Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the candidate for the left movement, they really believe that there's going to be a wall, and that this guy is the only one that can save our country for Trump's ambitions. And maybe not Trump's ambition, maybe all the foreign policy of Nigeria.
In the war of Mexico State on cartels and drug lords, right? First, where is that standing now? I heard that some major kingpins have fallen. And second is, to what extent is United States involved in the war on drugs? And is there a political side to it? I mean, especially when you say about influences on politics, is that also one channel?
Okay, the first thing about where are we standing right now in the war against the crime? I think we have lost a lot of time doing the same things. That the first thing it was, okay, let's say, all the policemen, it has to do their job and then just count all the criminal groups. But in fact, they can't. So we move all the army to just seek all the criminal groups. That was between 2006 to 2012. We didn't remove the army from that time, and now we have a very big problems. You could have had of a criminal group, and then it begins to rise another one. So now we have two cartels. From where there was one, now we have two. That is a big problem. The first problem. The second one is that army and policemen are corrupted also by the criminal groups. So there's another issue. So now we don't know. I think that maybe they don't know what to do. They try to came with a one command center. So we only have one intelligence center just to command all the forces, police, military. But I don't believe that that's going to be the answer for the problem. That's for the first question. And you have another one, the cooperation between United States and Mexico. In 2010, we have a program that is called the Merida Initiative. So United States just gave us a lot of money to invest and also to train our people to fight against the criminals. But it didn't go very well because also that money goes through the investment of the governors of Mexico. And there's a lot of corruption there. And also they choose, I think, the wrong state just to implement all this. That was Merida, or Yucatan, or the peninsula. It's a geographical part of the country that is very far from the center. It's very hot. So all the people that are there, they are not really trying to train to get the criminals, but they are just taking all the money because they don't have just an order, or just a very structural part, just to make all the money go through and go for the enforcement of the military. So that's.
Could you elaborate more on the discussion about DACA?
Well,
the legal implications for both sides.
The legal implications, I think right now, for the United States, and I can say it with all the appropriate words because I don't study a lot of about DACA right now, maybe from the United States side. But I believe they are going to have a lot of people that have to be deported, and that's going to be
Minors.
very
Minors or adults?
maybe adults, because some of the people that just came here were very young when the DACA just came in force, and now they are young adults, so they are working right now, so they have to assess all this part. In fact, I have this, I think it's just a small fact, how many employments has to be earned to be lost, and the reduction of the social security. So this is going to be the effects of DACA, the end of DACA in the United States. And for us, so we have a lot of jobs to be created, just for all the people that are coming back. And also, the problem is that not all the people that are coming back are from Mexico. Many of those people are from Central America, but maybe they are going to attempt to go again inside the United States, and they are going to stay in Mexico because it's better than in their countries. So there has to be another way to treat our migrants, because Mexico is also that is a country that says, okay, we have a lot of migrants in the United States, so please help them. But we do a lot of, we violate a lot of human rights to migrants that are inside Mexico territory. So if we are going to ask for this, for our migrants in the outside of the borders, we have to do the same one for the people that are inside and are not from Mexico, but from Central America. So.
Last question maybe, or comment?
Okay, can you maybe reverse the perspective and tell us a little bit more about Mexicans in the USA? Not only Mexicans, but more, maybe wider perspective on the Hispanic culture. I mean, we know that Spanish is essentially the second language in many US cities, not only those which are in the south of the USA. And amongst the kind of working class voters that Trump attracted were some Hispanic voters as well. And the wall was announced before the elections. So I don't know, I don't have a very specific question on that, but if you can maybe tell us from your perspective how thinking of the role of Mexicans in public culture in the USA can help us understand these relationships that you are talking about from the perspective of Mexico.
I think it can be, it can help, yes, in fact. You're talking about also the votes that are from the Hispanic people.
Trump,
But Trump.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very interesting documentary that's called Between the Heaven and the Hell. And it's about some people that are asking others, where do you vote for Trump if you're Hispanic? And many other people just say, okay, I came here first, I just have my rights, now I am a US citizen, so why do I have to just give all my rights to the new people that just are going to get inside of the country and without saying, just raise your hand and yes, I am Hispanic and I want rights, because I fight very hard for these rights. So I won't let any other people just came inside and just take our rights. So I think it's very difficult, because when new people from Mexico, or maybe for all Hispanic, from all Latin America, just get inside of the United States and found this reality that they found on other people that talk in Spanish, and it's like, are you going to help me just to get the green card or the citizens? I don't think so, because you came very late.
But this is interesting because, you know, I think that a very similar thing happened in the UK in the post-colonial period. Writers like Franz Fanon, I don't know if some of this post-colonial literature is familiar, but they wrote about people who became UK citizens, maybe even already second or third generation, in the post-colonial period, from ex-colonies. And this is like a real kind of power dimension implicated. They started acting in a kind of dismissive, almost racist way to new others that are coming from Eastern Europe, in trying to adopt the colonizers' attitude to newcomers. And I think, I don't know why that's happening as well in the US, but maybe that can also explain how the power relationship between Mexicans and white Americans remains
There's
in a kind of analogical way.
Yeah, there's also some very big support from the Latin community inside of the United States for those who came or come later. For example, I came from a state of the country that is called Puebla, and it's the only county inside of the United States that has it's not like an embassy, but it's like a political, social connection between the local government from Puebla in New York. So if you're going from Puebla to New York, then you will find a very big community that will welcome you. So that's very good, because then you don't have, you will have to just go through the desert and then go to New York. But when you get there, you'll find shelter, food. So that's interesting, because there's like a small agreement, a political agreement between the two states, New York and Puebla. But that's a good way to see it. But there's the other part of the community that are maybe not from Puebla, they are from other parts of the Latin American area. They are like, why are we helping them? We have to make them, maybe not pay, but they have to do the same effort, like us did in the beginning.
Because in order to be accepted by the white majority, you have to adopt some of their views as well. And that includes the relationship to newcomers. So that's a very strange world. Obviously it replicates in Mexico, UK, other places.
And many people believe that with the election of Donald Trump, it's like, so you're Hispanic, then you're going to vote for Hillary Clinton. That's for sure, and that's not true. Because also Hillary Clinton, the big perception of Hillary Clinton from the Latin American people was like, okay, she's a liar. So, and that's
a liar.
So she's a liar. So she's not going to be the president. So it's very difficult, because they have to choose between Trump and Hillary Clinton.
The likely winner.
Yeah. That's, so there was a very big.
For sure.
I don't know if you have any other questions, maybe for ethnical composition. In fact, Professor Kals gave me some books just to read about your country, and I found interesting a lot of things, because maybe, for example, when I was thinking about the Croatian reality, it's difficult to see that there was like a very big country with a lot of ethnical groups inside, and they just want to take their own nationality, their own state. And maybe in Mexico we have a lot of ethnical groups, but they don't have any inspiration just to make their own state. Maybe in 1994 we have that one with the Zapatista movement, but that was just another thing. They didn't just build the idea of we need an own state. So I don't know if you have any other questions.
I have another question. Is Mexico just an emigration country, or is it also an immigration? From where do immigrants in Mexico come from? I understand the question.
Oh, okay. So you're asking if Mexico don't have like people from Mexico going to the United States?
Yes, but is there also someone coming into Mexico?
Yes.
Where from?
In fact, they are coming most of the. They came from Central America.
Most of them.
In fact, for many of the countries that right now a lot of problems, maybe not political problems, but just social problems. So they come from there.
Just one short additional question. Isn't Mexico a transition country? Do people from Central America go to Mexico, from Mexico to the United States, or just stay in Mexico?
In fact, both, but most of the people just go through Mexico and then to the United States. There are less people.
So you are a transit country.
Yeah. For Central American people,
You will
yes.
read my article. I'm just finishing my article about Mexico as a transit country. So.
In fact, for most of the people of Central America, well, I'll just in another word. Most of the people ask, so in Mexico you go and maybe to one neighbor and just ask, where are you from? You are from Costa Rica, you are from Nicaragua, and that doesn't happen really all the time. Many of the people in Mexico just say, I'm Mexican, and that's all. I think it's kind of funny when you go outside of the country and you found that in many countries here in Europe, you can ask, where are you from? I'm from Croatia, but yes, I was raised in Morocco, but then my fathers are from another country. In Mexico, many of the people are from Mexico, and that's all. The people that came from Central America just goes through the country and then into the United States. So they are very few people that are just stay in the country. Maybe for the social condition and also for the insecurity.
So you mentioned Porfirio Diaz in the Mexican Civil War, and as far as I know, this also had this religious component between like secularists and the church. So what's the role of the church now in politics? How does that relate to different parties?
Yes, in fact, it's not difficult to explain it. In 1862, we have the Reform War. It was a very small war between the state and the church. Maybe not between the state and the church, between two political entities that says, the first one, religion has to be a very important part of our lives. So we have to stay near to the church because it's a very important institution. The second one, church is not going to rule with the government. So we have to just take all the goods that they have, and we have to just rule for ourselves. And the church has to just take their business, and government is apart. So that decision from church and government was in the late 19th century, and that is the same from that to our days. So right now the church doesn't have that much power to make some important decisions in politics. Maybe they can say something about other issues, just like, for example, abortion.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that just get into the church. That's the only thing that.
Do you have religious education in public schools?
No, we don't. In fact, in public schools,
So it's prohibited.
Yes, it is. But if you go to a private school, it doesn't matter. It's just like you can't have, for example, public cults. You can go to the church, but you can't just make, for example, a ritual or something just in the public. You can't do it in the street. You have to go to your church, and that's all. And that's something also interesting because many people just ask, so you are Catholic in Mexico? Yes, and you have Muslims? And many people will say, no, Muslims are not allowed in Mexico. No, we have Muslims, but it's a very, very, very small minority. It's almost impossible that you can just go to the streets and yes, there's a Muslim or there's a Jew. That's not like Europe, that maybe you can have all this variation of cults and ideologies. So that's good. I think that's good because I believe that Mexico is a very close country in many ideas.
So the church cannot get any public support, for public money?
They do? Or
Just
just
to mention, you have Franciscans running a school and do they get like budget support?
they only can if they are going to do that money, they are going to use that money, for example, for the conservation of the churches, because they are part of our patrimony. But that's all.
Okay.
You can, for our heritage, so you can just, the church can go to the government and says, I need money. In fact, the government says, here are some money, so you can just preserve our heritage, and that's all. So it's just very specific.
Okay, so I have one question regarding the ethnic composition of Mexico. You mentioned that you have different ethnic groups and that they don't have any aspirations towards independence. But is there any kind of competition between ethnic groups within Mexico in terms of power relations, access to different kinds of social resources, natural resources, etc.?
There's no like a political or like a fight between ethnic groups. In fact, they are. What I was telling is that, for example, all our country has a lot of mountains, and many of these people are on the mountains in a very, very far area. So they just identify themselves as an ethnic group because they live near each other, and if they have like they don't have in fact conflicts between one another.
Do they get any kind of public support for preserving their identity?
They do, and they don't. In fact, because yes, there are some programs so you can preserve your own language, and for example, from the National University where I study, there's a program so if you can prove that you are from an ethnic group and you speak an ethnic language, then you can afford for a scholarship, for example. But that's not enough. In fact, because many of the education for that people are like, so you have to learn Spanish. Okay, but for example, I speak Mayan. Yes, but we don't have people that can teach you that. So if you can teach you themselves,
So you have to integrate knowledge.
yeah, so it's good for you. If you can just teach yourself Mayan, or you can learn from your parents, it's good. But the government don't do a lot of programs for preserve that. In fact, that's maybe the reason why our ethnic composition is there's a lot of ethnic groups, but they are not integrated in a very massive or political party or a political grouping. In fact, just in this election, it's a very new issue. We have an indigenous candidate that runs from presidency, because now we have independence candidate. So, yeah. But the thing is that it's just for a specific minority, that it's from Chiapas, from the Zapatista movement. But that's all. And it's not like from the northern part of the country. There are other groups like Huillicutas and others. They are not adding their support for this candidate. It's just like, okay, he's indigenous, but we are not from the same. We are not to compete with him, with her, but we are not going to support her that loudly.
And then just another question also related to the language issue. So this sounds a bit similar to the situation, let's say, in African countries, where you have lots of ethnic groups, different languages, but they cannot really communicate with each other because these languages are so far apart. That's why they always just use, let's say, French. So is this the case in Mexico as well? So how related are these languages? Is it possible to have one of these indigenous languages that is sort of a lingua franca that you can go to different parts of the country and people might understand you?
Many people believe, for example, that Nahuatl is the lingua franca in all the country, but I think it's more of this, how can I say, like a centralist idea, of this national idea that our myth of our foundation comes from the Aztec people.
Mm-hmm.
So many people say yes, because the Aztec, they believe, they speak Nahuatl, so Nahuatl is the main, lingua franca for all the people. That they don't. In fact, if you ask someone in the northern part of the country, do you speak Nahuatl? They will say, what is that? We don't. We speak our own language. So there's no like a lingua franca for all the indigenous people or the ethnic groups inside of the country. They speak Spanish, for sure. For many people, now the young ones, for sure. Because many of the people from the ethnic groups that are indigenous, they are from the most rural parts of the country, and they aspire to go to the United States. So maybe they will learn Spanish, and after that they will learn English for their own. So that's the other problem related to your question. All this diversity of language are going to be lost maybe for the next generation, because we have for maybe 5 years, a very specific institution that is called I can relate the translation, but it's for the indigenous voices or languages. But it's a small effort, so they are just going to take some data. So how many of Ñañús are like 5 million? Okay, interesting. Oh, how do you say this in Ñañú? Like this. Okay, perfect. But it's not like an effort to make an alphabet or to make some dictionaries.
So they're not written languages.
Some
of them are, right?
Some of them are. Maybe the most important ones, so that has a lot of density. For example, Nahuatl, Maya, Totonaco. But the small ones like Ñañú, like Huillicuta, they don't. It's just like oral part. So that's another big problem.
So it's hard to preserve a language if you don't have.
Because you don't have a record for all your history, so you have to ask for example. You're talking about African communities. That's the same here. In African communities, for example, you have this oral tradition, but also you have objects like the baton for the command. For that's the same in Mexico. You have some objects that has to be. You have to ask the elderly people, what is this and what does it mean, what importance have in your community. And there are studies, yes they are, but they are not enough.
Okay, so unfortunately our time is up, so we need to leave, but first thank you very much for being our guest at the Advanced Research Center. I think we all enjoyed hearing your lecture and of course hearing something new about Mexico. We'll continue our advanced research workshop next month. I hope you will also come again. And maybe our dean has the last sentence to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now, Alfonso, you have to help me because I have to convince something Jana.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Evo, ja ću se vama javiti za onaj naš...
Sada su informacije za one Ruse.
Dobro.
19 sati. Ruska ambasada organizira i njihov festival.
Dobro.
Da se može napraviti do rana.
Može.
Da posljedno još ili...
Ne, ovo mi je dovoljno. Ja ću onda to. Dakle, 19. u 19 sati.
Tako je.
Napisat ću vam mail, može?
Može.
će vratiti.
Oni imaju odsjek